for example, so when improvising, right? For me, the ideal would be to always at any point to be aware, if I want to be aware of the note that I'm playing, the actual pitch, the name of it, and more importantly, the relationship to, say, the root note.
Okay.
So the interval. And with that comes, obviously, as we said, like the color, the tensions, all of that. So ideally, even if you play like your 30-second notes, every one of those, you would want to be aware of what they do and what they sound like in terms of their tension.
Okay.
Right? So that is very, very difficult to attain. You can only attain that if you kind of like get that sort of level of understanding on a conscious level, and then you transfer it to the subconscious.
Right.
And at that point, you're simply moving your fingers, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're basically not thinking; you're just moving your fingers. But you know that because like our processor here is so much faster than what we can consciously grasp, so that we can be sure at some point that we are aware, but subconsciously, right? So the definition of awareness usually is that it's got to be conscious,
right?
But I believe that by making things conscious, they can be kind of transferred back to the subconscious, and you can have sort of like you can be sure and confident that your choices are not random.
So
right?
So when you're conscious of it, is that more in the practice routine, or is that on the stage, or where do you see that?
Like I'm talking about the practice routine.
Okay, good.
Right. So, and what I mean is like so in some cultures, like where there's a lot of pressure, people like always, and this I see this all the time. They want shortcuts.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and the shortcut simply doesn't exist.
No.
Right.
There's no shortcut to experience.
So
right?
thinking of playing, like chunk, like, so in a way, a pitch, right? Say an A, it's an A, it's an absolute thing, right? So it's an A, but thinking of an A as part of a C major scale, let's say, right, is like you're chunking things. You're kind of like taking 7 notes and giving those 7 notes a name.
Yes.
So then some people believe that all they need to do is to play the C major scale on top of a C major chord, and then everything's going to be all right.
To sound good, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the case.
No.
Right?
Right.
So the difference is really like, okay, like where do I chunk? And so if you're in a culture where it's allowed that you break things down, and that you're allowed to spend enough time with playing an A on a C major chord, let's say, you understand what it sounds like. Right, and it's about that A. It's not about the A being part of the collection of the notes of the C major scale.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and this is really, even though you could say, but it's the same thing. No, it's not.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And it's that minute immersion in each factor that I don't think is commonplace as much anymore. I know when I started, it's funny you say the note A. One of my strongest memories is understanding what A was on a G minor 9 chord.
Yes.
I mean, just like I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up right now as I remember being 15 years old, sitting at the piano, Alison Moyet's arrangement of That Old Devil Called Love.
Yes.
And what a weird random place to get to it. It's like those of us who find bebop in Mike Stern but then go back to Charlie Parker. I found that in Alison Moyet, then went back to Frank Sinatra or something. But I played that voicing thousands of times. It wasn't like, oh, I understand this, clunk, 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 next.
Yes.
It was thousands of times, weeks of just that, not even another key.
Yes.
Just A in the context of G, never mind B flat in the context of A flat. I think that is not promoted so much. I think the goal is so much more pressurized to attain.
Exactly. And it's that richness that you experience there which really makes the difference. So now imagine you take away the G minor from the A, and all that's left is the A, right? So some people would say, oh, it's just an A. No, it's a whole world
Yes.
of, or millions of worlds, contextual worlds that this A can exist in,
Mm-hmm.
and it will always have a slightly different role and function, if you want to think in functions,
Right.
or color.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that awareness is, I got lucky because when I was like 3-4 years old, my parents started taking me to music school. And I remember it was like, you know, Karl Orff, the composer,
Yeah.
he sort of had like also like a method for teaching
Okay.
children. And so there was like the Orffsches Instrumentarium was called, so instruments for Orff's
Yeah.
method, let's say. So and it was individual blocks of a xylophone, so one note at a time. So that's how I got taught music. So they gave me an A first.
Wow.
I had an A. I'm not exactly sure it was an A. It could have been an E or whatever. But anyway, I had one note first, and I was banging as a child on that A. And then they gave me a G. And I heard like, okay.
Wow.
Well, so for me, even though, like I said, like everything is in the relation of the notes to each other, but there's also something absolute about each individual pitch. And what is absolute about it is that it's a whole universe of application. There's a whole universe of applications for each one of those notes out there.
Right.